As a child of narcissists, I think the most bizarre relationship you have is to money, because I think when people hear about my experiences growing up, they don't know if I was below the poverty line or wildly above it. Because in a narcissistic family dynamic, what you have is the narcissist who hoards the wealth. They get to control how much the children and possibly the other parent know about that wealth. I grew up believing that we were this close to being on the street. I was raised by a man who had his mother paying for our phone bills and then running off to go on vacations. And the only time that we ever got new clothes or anything like that was back to school shopping, right? I had free lunch somehow, okay? At the same time, multiple cars, braces, club volleyball. Those are things that wealthy people get. And now in my adult life, it's a similar experience. I've had periods where I worked multiple jobs. Actually, besides the fact that I was chronically sick, those were the happiest times of my life because I was independent of the narcissist. And while I have been able to reach out to my parents for bailouts because they have a relationship to wealth, I don't have a college fund. I don't have anything that will give me any long-term growth. I don't have any idea how to manage money whatsoever. And so yes, I can sit and appreciate the fact that oh my God, right now as it sits, I live a wildly privileged life, and I'm so grateful for that. But as a college student, I constantly find myself in positions, if I'm not willing to work multiple jobs and almost die, that I have to return to the people that abused me in order to have any sense of stability until I graduate and can figure something else out. I literally have to return to the people that abused me. The people that when I was legally dependent on them liked to use the rug as a threat. So there is something that's re-traumatizing about the fact that in order to get a student loan signed, in order to get any kind of money or bailout until I graduate, I either have to work through the abuse that is the economy, or I have to return to the people that abused me and now allow them to have power over getting my basic needs met. Do you understand how traumatizing that is? That's why it's frustrating for me to talk about the privilege of it all. It doesn't feel very privileged, although I know obviously it could be worse. But my health, my stability, the roof over my head is in control of people that like to leverage that. And that's the thing about narcissists, is that they want you to want them. Narcissists don't ever want you to be independent, because when you're not independent, you have to continue to return to them. And if you return to them, now they have something to use against you. Now they can take all of their abuses out on you, and you're not allowed to react. You're not allowed to be mad about it because they're giving you something. They're providing you with something. And how ungrateful are you? And while I've had periods where I was ruggedly individualistic, working multiple jobs so that I could have my independence from them, and then periods where I just couldn't shake it anymore, and then I did have to turn to them in order to get my financial needs met, what I can say is leap and go on without it, babe. It is not worth it. It's literally not worth it to return to the abuse at all whatsoever. I think I would rather fear not having my bills paid than ever have to return to being spoken to or treated the way that I was. Or just the fact of putting your life and your independence back into the hands of people that actually get so much joy and pleasure out of the fact that you don't have independence. It's literally the fact that my dad, who's a narcissist, is married to a millionaire. Also, he did not do anything to cultivate funds for my sister and I when he could have, for sure. Now that I know that in hindsight. Literally lives in a mansion. Mans has multiple cars. My sister was living there and working, and I think she was bartending at the time. And he told her she needed to move out or start paying rent in the mansion that they live in, right? So she's like, okay, I'm moving out. If I'm going to pay for anything, I'm moving out. I'm not living here with you. You're crazy. And anyway, so now every single time I fumble, every single time I'm having trouble with money, he can't even give advice about here's your way out of this, even if it was going to be beyond him or his assistance. he can't even do that because the only advice is ever, you just need to come back home. You just need to come back home. Like, you know, you could just live here and you could be here for free. As if I don't know the fact that he was literally going to charge my sister rent. It comes down to control. It always comes down to control. It comes down to some weird, bizarre way to get everybody to loop everything back into them. Like, that's crazy. Dude, and what's even more insane is that his wife, you know, her children grew up, had their college paid for, had allowances, etc. If I had the money, I would do the same thing for mine, right? What's hilarious, though, is that, like, she actively does not think my sister and I are worthy of any of that similar affection. Like, in her mind, my sister and I are always, like, so ungrateful, and we're always putting so much on our father. Like, ugh, he just can't handle it. It's so wrong. How insane do you have to be? Like, the only reason why she would think my sister and I were deserving of the behavior that he does to us is because we were born to him. Because we were born in a family that was lower class, right? Because with her kids, well, that's the family they were born to, so they deserve it. With us, even though he does have money and always had money, we don't deserve it for some reason. And I also think it loops back into the fact that every single woman that he's ever been with has always felt like if they allow him to act out the abuses onto us, that they are going to be saved from it. But when he runs out of sources, he's going to need supply, and it always goes back to them anyway. The most hilarious fact about it is that about a year ago, I burnt out so bad that I wanted to myself, so I stopped working so that I could finish my degree. At that point, I started taking out student loans, and that's been a real hiccup for all of us because I'm not working. School doesn't count as work. The student loans don't count as, like, my money. And that's so funny because they were really upset about the fact that I didn't go to school or work over the summer. Cruised off my student loans, and then, you know, I'm low-key, I did guilt trip them a little bit for money. But the point is, and then now I'm still not working. I'm still using student loans to finish my degree. And that bothers them so much that I'm not working, that I don't have a job. And that's hilarious because the woman that he's married to was married to a millionaire. So the money that she gets and is living off of is not hers. Like, she did not work for. And now my dad is living off of her funds. Also money he did not work for. He also does not work over the summer because he doesn't work anymore. So the whole idea that, like, I'm siphoning off of somebody's funds is hilarious because it's actually them. It's actually them siphoning off of somebody's funds. And there was a point in time, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but they were getting money from the government because there was this person in her family that needed assistance with their health. And so the government gave her money, even though she's a millionaire, to take care of that person. But instead of using, like, the funds were for her to, like, literally hire somebody, like a nanny or something, to take care of that person. And instead of doing that, she started giving the funds to my father as an allowance. And the real kicker is, and this is everything in the story that I'm telling you now is, like, so severely white-coded, is that she's a Republican. And she doesn't believe in welfare literally because she doesn't think, like, poor people want to work and they just want to take money from the government. You're a millionaire and you're taking money from the government.